It is raining.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ramona and I run a faith-based Christian channel where I share my Christian journey in the hope to edify the body of Christ and to encourage young people out there. Today I want to speak to you about why I stopped clubbing, and I want to shed some light on the nightlife and why it can sometimes become a negative thing in somebody's life. Before I begin, I just want to mention what exactly would qualify me to speak into this, because a lot of people might think that maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, or maybe I don't have experience. I just want to give you a little bit of my background. So I was a producer and a DJ, and so the clubbing world and the clubbing environment was very usual and very normal to me. It was for many years one of the most frequented place for me. I clubbed maybe several times a week, sometimes once a week, sometimes twice, 3 times. It just depended on what was on. So I clubbed probably from about the age of 17 to the age of 27, so probably nearly a decade of partying when you think about it. Part of following my dreams was spending a lot of time in clubs and hearing the music that I really loved and that I was aspiring to make. So because of my background of being a DJ and a producer, I found myself in clubs a lot, and so that was my environment, and all of the people that I came to know, all of my connections were actually through clubbing. So clubbing was center stage of my life for many years. So all that to say, I'm not a Christian prude that's criticizing a life I know nothing about. In fact, it's a life that's very familiar to me, and so I understand what it involves, and I know what people go through and what people experience when they club. So in my early 20s, I started to party very heavy in the underground scene. I was living in Dublin at the time, and I remember that there were certain times when there was after parties. After a club night, there would be an after party somewhere in Dublin, and I would end up somewhere on the outskirts of Dublin, and I would wake up in the morning then having to trek my way back home from wherever I had been. And so my whole life was about clubs really, and after parties. And at the time I definitely felt like I was having a good time, I was enjoying myself, and I was very immersed in something that felt very new to me. But it became very quickly destructive, and I know and I understand that a lot of people say that they just go out clubbing because they want to have fun or they want to listen to music. I think that oftentimes is an excuse for justifying certain behaviors and even sometimes toxic behaviors or a toxic lifestyle. And I totally understand that that might sound a bit crazy, and some people might think it's not toxic for me to go out and have a good time. And a lot of people, I think, because they work Monday to Friday, they just want to have a good time, they want to let loose, and it feels almost like a reward to be able to go out and party and to celebrate the end of a week. And I do understand that some people need that, but I think when you peel back the layers of what the clubbing world is, there's more than meets the eye. I want to expose really what goes on. When you remove the veil, there's more to it than meets the eye. I think that a lot of the time when it comes to clubbing, there are various different reasons why people go to clubs, and a lot of the time it may not seem it, but people go for validation. I mean, when you think about it, when you go to a club, you dress different, you put on different makeup. Men will wear their nicest aftershave, women will wear their nicest perfumes. And there's a reason for that. You're going out there to look your best, to attract the most attention, and to be validated in that. So it's not just going out for a party or just going out to listen to music. I do remember, when I was out in the clubs and I was partying a lot, I knew some of the DJs and I knew some of the producers. The very early days I wasn't producing and I wasn't DJing, but I certainly knew a lot of producers and DJs from being there very frequently. And I remember that they had a certain way of going on. Because it was underground clubs and it wasn't charts music or dance music, it wasn't about wearing Gucci and Dior and these types of big brands. It was more about being understated, and it was about wearing brands that were more underground brands. And so there was this kind of demeanor and this way of going on that was sort of understated, subdued, cool, kind of laid back type of personality that I noticed a lot of the DJs and the producers were trying to portray. So it was almost like they were putting on this mask, they were embodying this persona of somebody who was very cool. They had a certain image that they were trying to portray of themselves. And I think that they were obtaining a lot of validation through that. I didn't see that at the time. Looking back now, and hindsight is a great thing. This is, I think, a blessing that God gives us, is to be able to look back and see things with wiser eyes. I think because I looked up to those people, I didn't see through the veil. But now, being a bit older, I can see that it was much more than a passion of DJing and of clubbing, of dancing. It was a certain type of validation and there was a very specific image that they were trying to fit into. And I noticed that if you didn't fit part of this image, if you were a bit too loud or you didn't wear the right kind of brand, you were sort of shunned, you weren't cool, you know, you weren't in with the entourage. And so yeah, there was this kind of elitism, really, I would say, and snobism that you see oftentimes in clubs. It's very common, especially in Berlin clubs, in UK clubs, the likes of London and places like that. You know, it's all about who you are, and it's all about the status, and it's playing up to this persona. The funny thing about it is that a lot of those people think that they're very authentic, but I think it's actually the very opposite, because they're all aspiring to be like one another, and they're all aspiring to a certain type of image. And that's the kind of attitude that I noticed in clubs. And so clubs are a lot about validation. It doesn't matter whether it's an underground club or whether it's a charts music club. People go out there to present a certain image of themselves, and they're looking for validation through that. There is another reason why people club as well, and it's got to do with self-gratification. People go there because they're looking for something. They are looking to wallow in substances. They're looking to drink really heavy and get wasted. They want to get wasted either by drinking alcohol or by taking drugs. So they're looking for a gratification through the music, through the environment. And when you think about the club and the club environment, the lights are dimmed so low. It's like a kind of place where you go and you can do whatever you like in the dark, and nothing of what you do is ever noticed, and your judgment is impaired because you're drinking so heavy. The lights are dimmed, and it kind of creates this environment where people can do whatever they like, thinking maybe that there's no consequences or they're not being seen. And so I think that the clubbing environment is conducive to behavior that is out of character oftentimes. I remember in my clubbing days, there were many times when I woke up the next day and I thought, oh, I must have burned the ear off that person, or maybe I said the wrong thing, maybe I did the wrong thing, or maybe I tripped and fell, or it could have been, you know, any of these silly things. But they certainly weighed on me, those thoughts. And I have no doubt that there's many people that go out and they think, I can't believe I did this. You know, you're totally out of character because the environment is conducive to that. It's encouraging for you to drink, for you to take substances, for you to go wild. The sound, you know, it's so loud in there, and the lights are so dimmed that you just feel you're in another world. And that's the whole point of clubs, is to make you feel like you're in another world where you can experience something else, where you can be somebody else, where you can do different things that you wouldn't normally do. And it is the playground of Satan, whether people want to accept that or not. It truly is a place where Satan wallows, because he can tempt you to do things to come outside of your character, to basically have impaired judgment, where you're not yourself, you're not thinking critically, you're not thinking with a clear mind, you're making decisions based on a very poor capacity to think, you know, because obviously drink affects your thinking and your ability to have basic logic. And so don't be fooled. Clubs are not just having fun, it's not just a party, because let's be real, if you really just wanted to have a good time listening to music, you'd have a couple of friends over, you'd turn on your speakers and you'd put on some nice music and you'd just enjoy that. But there's a reason why people go to the club, you know, there's a lot more people there, there's a place where you can be somebody else, and it's more than meets the eye. There is a veil that needs to be removed, I think, and you know, I'm glad that I've seen some people on YouTube are also exposing that, why I don't club anymore, because a lot of people see it for what it is. You know, when you're so young and impressionable, it can seem like it's so much fun, and you just want to get so into it, and you want to be so involved, and it seems like all of life's worries go away and the answer to everything is to go out and party and to have fun. But slowly these things start to weigh, and you start to see the ways that this lifestyle can become destructive very quickly, and it can start to feel very heavy very quickly. It's very obvious that there's a hookup culture that goes on in clubs. So a lot of people that go to clubs, they're not necessarily good people. They're people that want to hook up and use other people, and that's just the true reality of it. There's a lot of people there who are there to use other people. How many times do women end up with somebody and then they end up pregnant, and you know, they have to carry a life that they never intended to have because they were in a place where their judgment was impaired. So that's the very big reality of it, that people are there because they want to use other people. Some people just want, you know, a bodily satisfaction out of that. Other people want to be able to brag about being with somebody. So there's plenty of people out there who will see you and will think, I can use that person, and they have no good intention towards you. And that's really sad, but there's a lot of deception. Deception is all around us all the time. It's like the air that blows around us. It's literally everywhere, and something can seem to be something, but it really isn't. And the older you get, you realize that there's a facade and a veil over many, many things. And a lot of things that we're a part of are deceptive things. The club looks so nice. It's so appealing to our eyes, and when you're so young, it draws you in and it makes you feel like the only thing you need to do in life, the only thing you want to do is to be in these clubs. It's such a strong pull on young people. But when you go there and you live that life, you realize you come out of it and you've gained nothing from it. Because let me tell you, there's so many people, so many different types of people in clubs, and they're not people generally with integrity. They're going out there because they want to validate themselves. They want self-gratification. They want self-glorification, and they're looking to use other people. They want to hook up with somebody. They want to use you for everything that you're worth. It's very hard to build true friendships. A lot of the friends that I had, I came to realize they had no foundation, because we were building a foundation based off of things that we would do in clubs. You know, it was all about the crazy things we would get up to. Things like going out clubbing and drinking, partying, and ending up in after parties and talking about how crazy that was and talking about the events of that night. And so those friendships were never built on good, fertile soil. They were built based off of vices. A lot of people that go to clubs have a lot of vices. So oftentimes your friends will be like that, people without integrity, people full of vices. And your relationships too. I mean, you can end up having a relationship with somebody for many years that you met in the club, and after many years you realize that you and that person are completely incompatible. That happened for me. I was with somebody that I met in a club, and I came to realize years later that we were completely incompatible and that this person didn't really respect me. There are many things about that relationship that were wrong, and I felt led really to leave it because it seemed good at the time when we were hyping about the music, when we were having fun in the clubs. But life is not all about clubbing. There's a real life that goes on outside of clubbing, and the people that you meet there, whether those are friends or whether it's somebody that you have a relationship with of the opposite sex, yeah, there's just a falseness there. And you know, when you really need somebody in life, those friends are not going to be there for you because you met them in that kind of environment. And it is just the truth that that's the kind of person that you will often find in the club. And oftentimes you are also that kind of person with not much integrity. And you know, I know myself that I really, for many years, I stepped outside of my character. I was so out of character from what I knew myself to be before I clubbed. I was such an innocent girl, and there was just no inch of badness in me whatsoever. But when I started the club, it was just a different character, a different person. I was trying to escape myself. I didn't want to be shy. I didn't want to be just that sweet, shy girl. So I started to drink very heavy to get away from that feeling of feeling trapped inside of myself, feeling like I was too shy and couldn't come out of my shell. And so I took to drink, and I started to drink, and I became somebody else. I became a wild person. And I think clubs are conducive to that, to building a different character, to being a different person. And it's all a facade because it's not really who you are. That's what the enemy wants. He wants to draw you away, as far away from the shore as possible, for you to become a person that you are not, never have been, to have a loss of identity, to spend so much time, waste so much time, in fact, being somebody else. All that to say, yeah, I think that everything people do in a nightclub ultimately is to bring attention from the people that you're looking to get attention from. I know it was certainly the case for me, where a lot of me and my girlfriends were going out dressed in a certain way. You know, we were looking to get attention, and I remember specifically there was a club that used to take certain pictures that looked very cool, and so we wanted to be relevant, and we wanted to be tagged in those pictures on Facebook because it made us look cool and made us look like somebody. So we were looking for status, we were looking for gratification, glorification, validation through those photos, validation through the way that we would go on social media. And so now that I see the clubbing world for what it is, I just think, what would I be doing there? You know, I'm not looking for those things because I'm living a pure life for Christ. You know, I have died to myself and I've given up my life for Christ. And I can't remember the verse exactly, but I'll pop it up here. But there is a verse that says that you should run away from, youthful desires that ultimately don't lead you in a good place. And, you know, how virtuous it is for us as young people, although we're tempted to go and do these things, to not do those things. That's what makes us different, actually. That's what makes us stand out. And what does the Bible call us to be other than holy, which means set apart? And so now that I'm following a Christian life, it doesn't make sense for me to be in those environments. It doesn't make sense for me to try and put myself on a pedestal, because the Bible tells us that those that exalt themselves will be humbled, and the ones that are humbled will be exalted. It's not compatible with the Christian life to live a life of self-gratification, specifically where I remember being a DJ, as I mentioned, there was a certain kind of glorification of self, because you were standing at the top of the decks and everybody was looking at you and what tracks you were going to play and how you were going to mix and how you looked, the kind of hairstyle you had. It was all about self, and look at me, look at me, look at me. It was about being the tallest tree in the woods and having everybody look up at you like, wow, look at this person. And that is a lot of the time what DJs and producers are looking for. It's a self-gratifying lifestyle, and it's not compatible with the life of Christ. Christ was a meek person. He was a mere carpenter. He certainly didn't exalt himself, and the people of his time didn't think much of him. In fact, even his brother James wasn't really too impressed, and even they had a hard time, his family had a hard time accepting that he was the Son of God. So it's not a life of me anymore. And yeah, this is what clubs are, and I hope and I pray that God will shed a light and help many young people see that there is nothing in the club. It's just a hollow place with hollow people, empty people a lot of the time, who are seeking for validation and self-gratification, because those are cheap versions of everything. When you club, you get a cheap version of friendship, cheap version of love, cheap version of joy, because there's no true joy in clubs. There's fun, it's exhilarating, it feels very good to your flesh, but you're always left very empty. I mean, think about the many times when you wake up the following day and you think you just feel empty, because that life has a way of weighing on you. It is a heavy life, exactly what the enemy wants for us. He wants us to have a sort of, I wouldn't even call it joy, a kind of a short burst of happiness, and then to feel completely depleted, so that we go and depend on that thing and need more of it constantly. But Christ talked about the everlasting and ever-flowing stream. The woman at the well that he met, he said to her, this water that you drink, you're going to constantly be thirsty and you're constantly going to want more, but the water that I give you is everlasting water. And those are the kind of streams of water we need to run through us. And oftentimes in the Bible, water is a symbol of cleanliness, of cleansing, and even, the symbolism in baptism is being born again, is being refreshed. It's a clean slate, and that's what we really need, because clubs are going to be fun for a time, but then they won't be fun after a while when you have to deal with the repercussions of that lifestyle. You're not going to have good people around you. You're not going to be in a good situation, and you yourself are looking for the wrong things in the wrong place. And that kind of true joy, true gratification of the soul is found through Christ. And I'm a firm believer in that, because I've lived it out and I've seen it for myself, that nothing in my life seems to really satisfy me anymore. It doesn't matter how much I'm earning. It doesn't matter the things that I'm buying. They wage old, and I'm left feeling and thinking, is this all? Whereas when I'm reading the Bible and I'm finding out something new about God, or I hear God speaking to me about something, that gives me a lasting joy, because I think that it's a joy that penetrates to the soul. Whereas the clubbing life, your soul is not looking for that life. Your soul can't be fed through that life, but it can be through knowing Christ. And I hope this has encouraged somebody out there. As I mentioned in my testimony, God has so much more for you than just that. God has many things for us to take joy in, and it doesn't revolve around clubbing and coming outside of your character and doing crazy things. Trust God in the process and know that He can meet you where you are, and He can change your life, and He can show you true joy that lasts, everlasting joy. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and do subscribe down below, and do give me a like if you found value in this video.